Chapter 3. The following two instructions, the instruction not to murder another person and the instruction not to steal another's property, are in fact the most visible expression of the desire for a moral life that these instructions dictate to us. Of course, these two offenses are serious offenses, and there are those who put them on the same level. What things are supposed to mean? Let's say there is a person who collected money in order to pay off a debt on a loan he took. And he is going to pay back this loan and be released from the general situation he is in. That person thinks and plans how he will repay the oppressive debt and how he will start living again without the task of repaying the debt, which forces him to live in poverty. Not only did he live in a tight and limited way, but he imposed on his family members a rigid regime of living everything as a result of the oppressive and suffocating debt he has. That person goes to bed happy about the new opportunity. He has to live his life freely and even happily, when he impatiently waits for the morning to go and repay the debt. On the way to the site where the lenders are, he was robbed and all his money was taken from him. Didn't this robbery cause that person to die? Is this robbery not at the level of murder? On the one hand, there will be those who say money is money, he can go back and collect it again. At most it will cost him more because of the delay in returning the money. That's why you shouldn't look at this robbery so rigidly. As we know, they will tell us, the wheel goes back and forth. Sometimes you win and sometimes you lose. You must not look at it either as a murder or even as a disaster. Besides, we will be told, how many such cases happen at all? You need some proportion in life. Most of the robberies will take place when people break into the homes of those who have greater options in life. That is, the robbers will prefer to rob those who have something to rob from them and not those who have nothing. In other words, they will argue that actually robbery or theft is not a matter of murder, but a matter different from murder. Since the murder is something terminal, a murdered person will never come back to life. He would forever be dead and lose all that life would allow him to experience in the future. On the other hand, robbery is something temporary. The robbed person can always replenish his money. It's true that it's sad, infuriating, leaves psychological scars, but it's still just money, and refundable money can be returned. In fact, it becomes clear from this that the theft can be returned, and therefore the laws of the Bible in relation to theft actually offer compensation for the theft and not imprisonment as in the modern law, when the biblical law is much more deterrent than the modern law. According to the Torah, there are several situations in which the thief is apprehended, according to the book of Exodus, chapter 22, verse 3, according to which a person who stole and the stolen item is found in his hand, must pay twice the value of the item he stole. If he stole $100, he must pay $200, which is returned to the victim. Another option is that the thief use the property he stole for his own use. If he stole something small, the Torah mentions sheep, he will pay 4 times the value of the property he stole, but if he stole something big, the Torah mentions an ox, he will pay 5 times. In the Talmud, Talmud Bavli, Tractate Baba Kama, page 9, side 2, it is explained that a thief is one who takes money from another, but is afraid of people while doing so, and therefore will usually do his deeds at night. A robber, on the other hand, will do his deeds in full view. This difference between a robber and a thief actually dictates a different punishment, because a case of robbery is not similar to a case of theft. Maimonides, Rabbi Moshe ben Maimon, emphasizes that, despite what was suggested above, a thief comes at night and a robber in daylight. Therefore the victim is not aware of the thief's actions until he discovers in the morning that he has been robbed. The scammers, such as the bank robber with a weapon, is not a robber but a thief even though the victim sees and knows he was stolen. There is another theft that is also mentioned in the Talmud as theft. It is the thief of the mind. This means deceiving the other person while making him mistakenly think a certain thing, or give a false impression of the true intentions towards him. The prohibition of theft of knowledge may also be expressed when a person causes a special act by his actions, but the second person is mistaken and thinks that the first one did a special act for him, and therefore acts for the benefit of the first. As mentioned, this punishment is more deterrent than imprisonment since it creates a need for the thief to think about what will happen if he is caught. Let's say he robs a bank and gets caught. The bank's management announces that $2 million were stolen. The thief now owes $4 million to pay back. Every thief will think twice if he should get involved in debt repayment. All the more so if he used the money and now he owes 4 times that is $8 million. With such an approach, the amount of thieves will be really low, and this actually offers a great advantage over the modern law that advocates imprisonment. In modern law, let's say that thief of the $2 million used them and was caught and received 10 years in prison. In the calculation of 10 years of work, for the thief's account, this is a much better deal than working. He actually made $200,000 a year, a very respectable annual salary. This is apart from the cost of living expenses he saved. At the end of the period, he leaves with a net savings of $2 million, minus the amount he used until his arrest. These prohibitions on murder and theft form the backbone of the social order as a whole. Society can exist when there is respect for the soul and property of the other. A society that allows murder and theft cannot exist at all. This is because no one is safe in his life and no one can be motivated to accumulate property by himself. When a person fears for his life, all his meaning for life may go down the drain. This is because he is not sure when something will decide to kill him. Furthermore, he can know what consideration the other person has who decided to kill him, or what action he should do or not do in order not to arouse this consideration of the other person. Such a living situation is absolutely unbearable. A person will not be able to plan. In fact, it will not be worthwhile for him to plan his life. He should not get married and have children. He should not accumulate property. And he should not make any effort at all. Therefore, such a ban must be a universal ban, since it concerns all the people in the world. A society that allows all kinds of murder, every such murder, for example, takes the sting out of the relationship between people and even family members. When any family member can be, in a behavior determined from the outside, a victim or a murderer and all, because of an occurrence that is considered forbidden by that person who decided to murder his friend. The social order cannot exist without reward and punishment. That is, there should be an equation that shows the positive sanction for a good deed versus a negative sanction for a bad deed. When murder is permitted, it ceases to be a sanction and there is a loosening of the social order. If we take for example the laws of a murderer in the Torah, we will actually find 2 simple options. These options are an indicator of understanding the prohibition. There is premeditated murder and there is accidental murder. In both cases the result is the same. There is a person who becomes a victim and there is a person who becomes a murderer. The difference is significant because an accidental murder was caused by an accident. The murderer did not intend to kill his friend. For example, the axe he used to chop wood flew and hit the friend who was killed in the head. There was no desire to murder here. On the other hand, there is an accidental murder that results, for example, from rage. A man is angry with his friend and hits him, and in the heat of the blows the friend falls and he dies. Both of these cases are the result of an accident. The Torah explains this well when a situation precedes the act of murder, whether the murderer hated the murdered before or not. That is, if 2 people are in conflict and hate each other, then any case of murder that happens between them will be premeditated. Because hatred led to this murder and hence it is planned. On the other hand, when there were no preliminary conflicts between the years, every murder here will be accidental. Hence, when a person accidentally kills, blood revenge is not allowed, and that accidental killer will flee to the city of refuge, where he will sit until the death of the high priest, and then he will be able to return to his home a clean man. For the first intentioned murderer, there is only one sentence: death, either by blood revenge or by the court. This is how the social accounting system is stabilized, when every act has a reward or punishment. Otherwise the social order will not be able to exist at all. The laws of the Torah in this case clearly define the need for this prohibition on murder. On the one hand, there is the maintenance of social order through reward and punishment. On the other hand, there is a reference to the cessation of criminal activity resulting from the murder. When there is a distinction between premeditated murder, there is the permissibility of blood revenge as a punishment for the murderer. After the killer is killed, the killer's family members are exempt from blood revenge, and thus the circle closes. The murderer received his punishment and returned to the path of life. On the other hand, when the murder was committed by mistake, the cycle of murder is immediately stopped. The family of the murdered person is not allowed to take revenge on the murderer, since the murder was committed by mistake. This is how the social order is again preserved. As mentioned, let's say that a person accidentally murdered his friend. The family of the murdered the murderer. The murderer's family is not slow to react and murders something from the family of the first murdered, and so on and so on. The blood revenge continues almost forever. In premeditated murder, blood revenge by the murderer's family for having murdered the murderer himself is not allowed. Again the equation closes. Thus these two prohibitions on murder and theft ultimately contribute to the social order and do not prevent the cycle of reward and punishment, which is most important to any healthy society. A society in which the people are not accountable and do not give an account for their actions is a sick society that has no ability to continue to exist. Taking responsibility is the basic stage of social progress. Without taking responsibility, society cannot exist. Therefore, these prohibitions emphasize not only the act but also the result obtained from it. Because only in this way, the social order will be able to exist and give meaning to human life, property, and the system of social relationships with others.